Now, I'm really incredibly excited about this next panel. I've spent the last year and a half going through some medical challenges, and I've had to completely revamp the way that I eat and the way that I think about food. And it's been incredibly empowering to talk to people throughout these couple of days who live their lives that way, who look as food is more than nourishment. And in many cultures, it's viewed as medicine. And it's a way to heal yourself now and also to build yourself a strong body and prevent against future illnesses. And in this panel, the panelists will discuss ancient ways of using food as medicine and offer contemporary ways to use food as medicine and add that to your own menus at your restaurants, at home, to your students, to all the people around you. Panelists will provide tangible ways to use food as a healing device and examples for how to share its medicinal power with the people in your lives. The title of this presentation is Food as Medicine, Healing Yourself One Bite at a Time, and the panel will be moderated by Jane Esselstyn. Did I say that correctly? Yes. Jane is a nurse, researcher, author, and mother of three living in Cleveland, Ohio. And she's a woman at the forefront of the plant-based food movement. She is also a sought-after presenter, sharing the results of her work and research at conferences and events all over the country. She's got an annual conference, which I was hearing about this yesterday. It's incredible. Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease for Women. And there she shares a plant-based approach to eating as the key to healing. She's the co-author of the Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease Cookbook, and she's the creator of the innovative recipes in the #1 New York Times bestsellers Plant Strong and the Engine to 7-Day Rescue, written by Rip Esselstyn. She is also the co-author of the Engine 2 Cookbook, a book scheduled to be published later this year. Please buy it. Now, let's get started on healing ourselves one bite at a time. Here's Jane.
Well, I'd like to invite the panel up here that's way more interesting than me, or than I am, and I'd like them to introduce themselves, if you guys don't mind. Here, that's not for them. Is it for them? Do you have your mic on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we have the mic on.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Andrea, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Sure.
I'm having them introduce themselves because they all do way too many things and too many platforms for me to keep it all straight.
My name is Andrea Beeman. I'm a natural food chef and a health educator, and an herbalist, and a pretty fabulous human being. And I came to using food as medicine through disease. About 20 years ago, I was diagnosed with hyperthyroidism, plus I had a goiter. And my doctor said, you need to take radiation, radioactive iodine, and then be on medication for the rest of your life. And I said, Doc, my diet is crap. I eat crap sandwiches for breakfast. I'm staying out all night long. I said, I know that I need to change my diet and my lifestyle. And my doctor said, your diet and your lifestyle have nothing to do with your illness. And I said, okay. I said, well, I get that that's what you've been taught. So I'm just going to change my diet and my lifestyle and see what happens. So I did. I stopped eating all of the junk and the crap and all the nonsense I was doing, and I started to eat real food. And within 4 months, my goiter started disappearing. I started to feel better. I was actually sleeping at night. And then within 2 years, it became completely normal. So I've been teaching people ever since because I think that, like, we all have a love of food, right? You're all here because we love food. But the ancient people knew food as more than just pleasure. They knew it as medicine. And when I tapped into that level of understanding as a chef, well, it actually drove me toward the chefing experience. When I tapped into that level of understanding food, it had a whole different impact on my life. And I've been sharing ancient wisdom with modern people ever since. That's the story.
Thank you. Manit, how about you? She said, do I get 2 hours? I said, try to do it in 2 minutes.
So my name is Manit Chauhan. I have 3 restaurants in Nashville, Chauhan Ale and Masala House, Tanso, and Mockingbird. Also partners in 2 breweries, the Carrot beer that you had yesterday, Mantra, and Steel Barrel. And food as medicine has been something that I have grown up with. It wasn't a conversation, it was a way of life. I mean, I remember as a kid, I would go up to mom and I'm like, I have a stomach ache. She would open the, the spice cabinet, take out some fennel, put it in my hand, and she's like, go ahead, eat that, you'll be fine. So that is pretty much how I've grown up with, and I love the fact that now this is becoming a conversation, because these were things which are, which have an ancient foundation. And we forgot about it somewhere along the way because we started depending so much on modern medicine. So yeah, I'm very excited to be a part of this conversation.
I'm not sure where Jahangir is, but he all week long has been getting a ride. I did not know about this. Yeah, this looks like it could be Farmer Lee Jones. To turn sideways, are you Farmer Lee Jones?
It is.
Oh.
And Tim, I don't know if you heard what Tim said. You need to innovate. And if you can't innovate, take someone's idea, minimize it, maximize it. I minimized it. All right? So,
Laughter is good medicine.
Oh my
and
God.
nothing else comes out better than from the roots. So that's what I wanted to showcase. And that's the person we need to thank. Whatever we all will say, all the shit that we might say, it finally came out of this box. And that's where the medicine is. So just remember that.
Just give me the mic, I'll just drop it and Maneet out. This is it.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I'm done now. Well,
I'm very impressed with his flexibility.
Yeah, he stayed in there for a
He
long
stayed in
time.
that box.
I mean, when you're 127 pounds, normally things which Farmer Lee Jones sends is more than 127 pounds. So it was all right. These boxes can take my weight.
thank you, Jahangir. Would you mind telling us a little bit about you? Maximize yourself, if you don't mind, for this.
It's very hard, but I have two restaurants, Graffiti Earth and Me and You. Graffiti Earth is all about sustainability. We buy a lot of Farmer Lee Jones ugly produce, as we call it, cosmetically challenged, because such words sell better in New York City than ugly. So anything with cosmetics sounds better in New York. So we call it cosmetically challenged produce. Which I am too, cosmetically challenged. So I really feel that, I feel that it speaks to me in a way. And I mean, I wish I had this hair which I could keep doing this like Maneet does all the time. But so that's one part of it. But at Graffiti Earth, we go beyond food. We one of the other things that Tim Ryan showed yesterday was the broccoli dog of Amanda Cohen, where you saw she really uses the core of the broccoli. So we are very fortunate. We take away all her broccoli, which is the florets. She gives it away for us for free. Twice a week we go to her restaurant, and she is so nice, doing all these beautiful little things, and she has so much waste. And every time we go, you say, Amanda, you should think of doing this now, because that would be even more waste, and we'll get that from her. So, so we draw out different things that I think, Amanda, you should only use 1 pea and give away 7. And it's too much food you're serving. So, so we get that from her. We work with a company called Birch Coffee. We use their used espresso. We cold steep it and make our ice cream. We are working with a juice company called Pure Greens. We get their pulp and we make chutneys with it. So it's beyond that food part. Even our napkins are just like about 6 inches to 8 inches pieces of cloth, which are stitched, and they are scraps of material which are going to be thrown away by designers. So we use that as our napkins. All our plate, cutlery, crockery is all hand-me-downs. We've not bought a single piece of crockery, cutlery. So if anyone wants to throw away, we take it. And that's one thing which I tell my staff has no pressure. If you break a glass, don't worry, we won't scream because it was anyway free. So, there we go in terms of that. That's one part of it. Me and You is our private dining. It's only 14 seats. As you know, I am very small, so I believe that everyone should stay small. So it's very small, 400 square feet, and that's where we have our private dinners, but there we do dinners whatever you wish to eat. So it's all memory driven. We send you a questionnaire. According to how you write to us, we cook for you. So it is writing a story every time for each person, and it's 5 courses of storytelling. And from the likes, your dislikes, the places you visited, people who you've slept with, it could be anything. And we basically reiterate that story. And if it's a chef, it's very hard because they've slept with almost everybody. So, I mean, especially if my friend Johnny Azuni was here, it would be very hard to write his story. But, but other than that, it's a pleasure. And I'm very happy to be here. And just like as Maneet said, my first book was called Mantra, The Rules of Indulgence. And over there, each recipe was an ingredient, and that ingredient had a reason and why it was good for you. And that's how we built that cookbook. And it's been a part, that was the only part that really encouraged me to go into this line, because not like everyone has this. I just feel like, how come every chef's grandmother and mother cook so well? My grandmother or mother never cooked. So we had servants and cooks in the house. They never liked cooking. They never did anything of that. But the only thing they did like was the essence of why food should be eaten and what's good for you, why turmeric should be had, and stuff like that. So that's my little story from that bar. I'll write a newspaper next time.
Well, speaking of storytelling, not everyone here is a great responder to email, but they are very good live. And I feel so lucky to have been able to talk to everybody about food as medicine and their lives and linking back. But this whole place, this is a shout out to Morgan and Jamie in that newspaper, because I heard him talk about storytelling and his restaurant. And it almost brought me to tears, because I suddenly, at first I was like, what? I don't really get it. And then I realized what it was, and I had this wave of goosebumps, and I could imagine my family and the situation, and I desperately wanted to go there. But what you guys have done here with this newspaper menu and the crops and the farmers and Jamie and everything was just, I felt like I was at the Oscars last night, the Oscars of food, or the Emmys of meals. And CVI truly is magical and medicinal. And this morning at the farm, who here was at the farm tour? A couple of you. Wasn't that just trippy? It was like different languages we were eating. And I noticed how you guys all work. I'm a nurse. I come from the healthcare, so I'm coming from a different land than some of you guys. But these people, what they do is magical. So my question to you guys, you have referred to it a little bit, but in connecting with you guys about food as medicine, some things came up about their, not childhoods, but where they first started realizing they were having food as medicine in their lives, or not getting food, eating a crab sandwich. But when suddenly Jahangir said, oh, I just remember cinnamon, black pepper, turmeric, and honey. And she said, oh, yes, yes, yes. Anyone grown up in America, we don't know what they're talking about. So could you talk about what that memory is, what that was all about, and what it meant to you? And then you've learned about it. So can you talk about food as medicine in your childhood, how that...
Sure. I mean, every time, every day, till today, my sister and me always have honey, cinnamon, a little bit of black pepper, because black pepper is very essential when you have cinnamon, because it'll absorb in your body properly. Otherwise, you won't get the cinnamon into your body properly. So you must put a little bit of black pepper in there. And turmeric. And turmeric is a healer. Turmeric in India has the lowest cases of Alzheimer's because of turmeric. And they've seen that. And it doesn't cure Alzheimer's, but it delays it. And luckily, I like my life, so I want to remember it. Most people, if they don't, then Alzheimer's is a boon. But other than that, cinnamon is very good for arthritis. And I'm Persian by race, and in our culture, we get arthritis a lot. So therefore, that was something always had. Honey is, I think, as you know, good for almost everything. So so that was always had. And in December and January, I mean, there were no rules like don't give alcohol to kids, like especially in my community. We are a big drinking community, but somehow they don't see that translate into my life. But other than that, from December to January, and the coldest would be something like this. It is not cold in Bombay, and it would be considered winter, and my parents would give us brandy. And I had brandy since the time I was 5 years old. We had to have, like, there was no choice. It was like milk. You had to have brandy. And in those 2 months, like about an ounce of it. And that was to help your immune system and keep you warm. So I think there were things like that, when many things, like right from, as she's mentioned, the stomach ache to whatever it was just a part of your life. I talked to her about the mango part. Mango overall is a very heaty food for your body. Like there are some fruits and vegetables and nuts which are very heaty for your body. So it was always balanced by something that was cooling. And during the mango season, it was the pith of the mango. You broke that, and inside there was this bitter thing. I don't even know if it has a name. I have no idea. So that horrible stuff you had to have every week, because that would cool your body, and then you could have as many mangoes as you want. That was the rule of the house. And that's what you did. And if you didn't, most likely you got caned, which is normal. But other than that, I mean, I've only been caned thrice, only by the father, not by my father, in school. But other than that, it's not such a big deal. You survive, and I don't think I'm damaged. And if I am, this is who I am. All right, and that's why you take food as medicine, because if you get caned every third day, then you have to take food as medicine.
So,
You were caned too, don't lie.
What? What are you talking about? So I think the most interesting part was a lot of things which are trends right now, and conversations, again, that we are having, was a part of us growing up. For example, as soon as summer, and summers in India are brutal, right? As soon as summer was about to, start, Mom would be making this rose syrup juice. She would be making a poppy seed juice. Raw mango, she would be making a juice of that, which was called panna, because there used to be in India these really hot gusts of wind called Loo. And she would make sure that these were ingredients which would cool you down, right? Rose cools you down. Khas, which is poppy seeds, cools you down. So these were things which were a part of growing up, right? When monsoon is about to start, fantastic. There would be, of course, definitely teaspoons of brandy, not pegs. Though I wish I had grown up in your household. I mean, like, yeah. I continue the tradition. I carry the mantle.
There you go.
Exactly.
There you go. I mean, you did it better because your mother gave you herbs like poppy. My mother only gave me alcohol. So alcohol versus getting, the good stuff like poppy.
I know.
Yeah, and then we have the 17-year-old kid.
They can't blame me for
and he's
anything.
Like, my father got me in here to say that alcohol and drugs are good for you. Yeah, that's what we grew up on.
My God.
Alcohol and drugs.
Yeah, we're never being invited to this panel again. So, but that was it. Like, winters, Mom would be carrots. Okay, they were red carrots which were only available for 1 week in the entire year, right? That's what it was. We would look forward to it because that's when you would get the carrot pudding, and then what Mom would do she would cut it into small pieces and preserve it. And every morning we were supposed to eat it. It was called morabba, one piece of this sickeningly sweet carrot, which I hated with a passion. Right now I think about it, I'm like, oh my God, that was so delicious. Or gooseberries, right? Gooseberries, again, every morning have one gooseberry because it builds your immune system. It's so high in antioxidants, right? So these are things which were so normal. So yesterday when we were having this conversation, when we started talking about, honey in the morning with some turmeric, with, some black pepper, with cinnamon, yes, I think each and every household had its own morning immunity drink, or, just a spoonful of that. And it
You
worked.
called it grandma's recipe.
Yeah, it's
Say
in
it, you said it like da.
Dadima ke nuskhe, means these are remedies by your grandmother. And that's it. I mean, it's, oh, you have a cold, just put some turmeric in the milk and just have some warm milk. I mean, I used to get so frustrated growing up. I'm like, oh, Mom, I cut my, hand. I was hoping that there would be some cool Band-Aid because, of course, you're growing up in India, Band-Aids are so cool. Put some turmeric on it. And I'll be like, I don't want to go around looking all yellow, but that's what it is.
Well,
Now,
240 people went yellow yesterday.
oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. That's true. So, but that's what it is. And now I really, really appreciate the fact that these are things that we need to get in our daily repertoire. I mean, yogurt. In India, once you finish a meal, most of the people finish the meal with a bowl of yogurt, right? I'm like, I'd much rather have ice cream. But now you realize that it is the probiotics that you're taking in your body, which now is one of the biggest things. People are like, let's have a probiotic capsule. Why? Just go and have some yogurt. Make some fresh yogurt, have that. So I think that is something which got lost, and I'm so glad that it's coming back.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they both referenced moms and grandmoms. So the women were the carriers of the recipes. They were the wisdom keepers, right, for keeping people healthy. And what happened in America was after World War II, the women went into the workplace. The men were off into war, and the women went into the factories. So thousands of years of wisdom and recipes were lost. And when women came back, they didn't go back into the kitchen, many of them. They stayed out into the workplace. So for you guys, the culture was still very strong and still is to this day, but for a lot of people here in this country, there are generations of people that have no idea that food is used as medicine. And it's very smart that we have to bring it back, because if you look at what's happening with our disease rates skyrocketing, it's because the recipes, those wisdom recipes, have been lost. They've been lost from our language, they've been lost from our culture, and it's no wonder to me that 1 out of 3 people have cancer. It's no wonder that 50% of the population is headed toward heart disease. That's, when you look at the history of what happened in this country, we need to actually take a step back and go back to the ancient wisdom and bring it forward so that we can start to heal.
On that note, raise your hand here if you've heard of the Hippocratic Oath. What is it? I can't hear. You can tell I'm a middle school sex ed teacher when I'm not doing my nursing stuff. So yes, do no harm. That is actually a very abbreviated version. The true Hippocratic Oath is, this is to quote the oath, I will use those dietary regimens which will benefit my patient according to my greatest ability and adjustment, and I will do no harm or injustice to them. We've been reductive about that oath to be more self-protective as practitioners. And there is a huge conversation happening right now in the medical field around the nutritional training in medical school. There's not 20 minutes of nutritional training or information about nutrition in the body in medical schools. So in the field of medicine, there's a new, you probably have all heard of it, it's called lifestyle medicine. A new branch of medicine is being formed literally right now in next month in Tucson, Arizona. It's called ACLM. American College of Lifestyle Medicine is starting this new branch of medicine that is going to be board certified. So you as people and patients, as consumers, can ask for a board certified lifestyle medicine practitioner. But they are fighting for nutrition to be taught in medical schools. doctors talking about food to patients is like them talking about living room decorating. They've had no training in that. So it's a little confusing when your doctor tells you to go paleo or keto or this or plant-based. So my question for you guys is, in your training that you've had, and I know you've been to CIA and your Chinese medicine schools, what sort of nutrition and health education did you get in your curriculum in CIA? I know, and you probably got a ton in yours. But I'd like to start with Farmer Lee Jones.
I mean, we did go through a nutrition class, but it was not so much as with where emphasis on medicine part of it was played.
Or health or health?
It was just general health. Like, yeah, this has more vitamin C or whatever. It was very, very general. And, but I don't blame it. It's not a culture which came from that. So it is, everyone is good at what they do. America is good at packaging and selling a product. That's what they do fantastically well. And you have to give credit to every country. That is what they do. Eastern countries do this about medicine. So I think everyone, but the main point is that there is no person in America, in the world, who is as good as taking an idea and then thinking and reevaluating. And once they get that knowledge, I think Americans are the best country to come to, where accepting is a key, where understanding something and then taking it forward. There is no kind of, I'm so proud to be American for that reason.
You're wearing red, white, and blue, I must note.
Thank you.
I did my undergrad in India, and then I came here to go to the CIA. In India, there was absolutely no concept of teaching nutrition and food. I mean, it really, it was about the different cuisines of the world. I mean, we were supposed to know the La Rouge gastronomy, from A to Z, but nutrition was something which really wasn't even, wasn't acknowledged, because I think it was taken for granted, right? Which is so sad, because, over the years, what I really, so I had a phone call from a producer from a show. This was around 10 years back. And she calls me up and she's like, hey, we're doing a segment on Ayurveda, right? Do you know anything about Ayurveda? And of course, this is 10 years back. I'm like, yeah, of course I know about Ayurveda, right? Because I have grown up in India. I've heard the word being tossed around. I'm like, how tough is it going to be? It's Ayurveda, right? Great. We start having a conversation where she's like, let's talk about, what do you know about dosas? Now, dosas in Hindi is, they're these rice and lentil crepes, right? She was actually talking about doshas, which are body types. And over here, I am hearing dosas. I'm like, of course I can make dosas. I can make it out of lentils, I can make it out of rice. Okay, no clue what the conversation is going on about, right? Talking about accents, right? I had earlier with my V's and my W's, with veggies and veggies, which sounds different to me, but apparently not to you guys, yeah. So, we have our conversation, and it was amazing because she was talking about doshas while I was talking about dosas, right? Neither one of us had an idea what we were talking about. Till the time I'm like, something is not going right over here. I'm like, why don't you send me an email recapping this entire conversation, and then we'll take it from there. So she sends me an email. She's like, doshas. I'm like, what the fuck is this? So I go.
How your mother raised you?
No.
No.
No, absolutely. That's the chef in me. So I started researching. And I'm like, oh, wow. And it was an aha moment for me, because I picked up the phone, I called up my mother-in-law, who I'm like, and she is really into this. I'm like, do you know anything about this? She's like, yeah, what I'll do is I will introduce you to a Ved, which is a a doctor in India who just deals with Ayurveda and about holistic healing. So she gives me a phone number. I call up India. I speak to this doctor, and he's like, send me a letter written in Hindi, okay, by mail, and I will respond to you in the next 4 or 5 months. I'm like, oh, okay, great. My segment is in 2 weeks. I did send him a letter. He never responded to me because my Hindi is absolutely pathetic, written Hindi. I can swear very well in Hindi. But this really started this entire process of, this is so amazing. Ayurveda, it makes so much sense. Think about it. All of us are unique. We have a body type. We need to live according to our body type. We need to eat according to our body type. So that absolutely was the aha moment for me, that this is amazing. This is how we need to live. I wish I did 100% of that. I think I'm at 50%. But I really encourage my kids that, you know, this is your foundation. This is how you need to build up on your future.
How about your nutritional training and your formal training?
Well, when I was first initially getting into this, I was studying shiatsu and the organs and the meridian systems. So each of the organs and the meridian systems are associated to a flavor, a season, a cycle. And on the bigger picture, those meridian systems, which are energy channels in the body, are connected to the cycles and the seasons on the planet. So it made so much sense to me. And Farmer Lee, you know, he always talks about seasonal eating. And it's actually one of the wisest things that we can do. So Farmer Lee would say, in springtime, when the asparagus comes, you eat it with wild abandon, right? And then you lust for it for the rest of the year. And according to the cycles and the season and the physical body, when that asparagus comes up in the spring and it's loaded with potassium, it helps to clear the excess salts out of the body. It also helps the urinary tract and the bladder and the kidneys, which is part of the Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic system, right? Where we're connected to the environment, and the environment is supporting us to be as healthy as possible and to move into each season energized. So when you eat the asparagus in fall, it doesn't have the same impact. It'll still be good. It won't be as delicious, as we all know, right?
What should we be eating this fall? Believe it or not, we're heading into fall.
Yeah.
What should we be eating?
Well, what is growing right now? Like, what's in the fields right now? So for lunchtime yesterday, I made a cauliflower soup on purpose because that is what is available this season, and the flavor of cauliflower is actually pungent, and pungent helps to clear the lungs. And as we move into fall, what happens? Everybody, they get sick. They start to expel mucus, right? So you actually want to support that process. You want to get the mucus up and out of the lungs and out of the system so that in the wintertime, you're healthy and you don't have to suffer with the flu. Because if this doesn't come up, if the phlegm doesn't come up in the fall, in January, you're going to be down with the flu, right? I haven't had a flu in 18 years, right? And just by putting myself in harmony with the cycles and the seasons, it doesn't mean that I don't get sick. Sickness comes. But I haven't been down with the flu, right? The mucus comes out. Say again? Well, cauliflower is just one of the foods, right? There's a whole wide variety of foods that we can eat, right? This is just the flavor of this season is spicy pungent. So horseradish, leeks, onions, garlic, cauliflower, broccoli, all those cruciferous vegetables as well. Kale, cabbage, classic.
She asked Andrea as her website, and you can answer what to eat in winter and the spring, and summer and the fall.
And you have to make it taste delicious, otherwise it's not going to nourish you on any level, right? So a lot of times people think health food, right, is bland and disgusting and I don't want to do it. But it has to be delicious, because if it's not delicious, you're not going to want to eat it, and it's not going to nourish you the same way.
Okay, I have some more specific health questions to come up, but the first one I want to ask about is something we've all heard stated before, and I'm going to direct this to whoever wants to answer. But what is behind the well-used or known phrase, never trust a skinny chef?
Well, they too can comment on me if they want.
We one who popped out of the box the size of an egg crate.
Well, there are lots of tales that people say, but then in the end, there are many people who would say never trust a president too. So we can get there too. But other than that, I think for me it was like, I think I've been very lucky. My family, everyone in my family, especially from my mom's side, is very thin. So I think it's just the lucky gene too, which is added on to that little spark of my side. And but I think you just eat in moderation. I think that's the most thing. I think there's no need to go yin and yang on it. If you do like meat, don't suffer. I just feel like I've given up eating meat for the last 5 years, but that doesn't mean that that's the right thing. If you feel you're going to be unhappy with your life, and then you're going to make your wife miserable and your kids miserable because you wanted to become skinny by not eating meat, I think you're doing yourself a disfavor. Eat what you need to eat, be happy. I think being happy is more important than eating right or doing things just because other people are telling you to do things. It has to be from within. You need to embrace it. If you can't and you're going to be miserable, don't do it, because it's not going to give you happiness. I mean, just the other day, my sister sent me an article. It was written by a British author. I didn't manage reading everything, but one of the last lines which she highlighted because she knew that I won't read the whole thing, and she said and the last line was, meat won't kill you, the people, your workers will kill you. So because of just the amount of times you're like with your workers and your work so sometimes it's that balance, right? I mean, even eating right, but just working 20 hours is not a healthy way of living either. So it's a balance with everything. I think that is one thing that you have to remember in life. Balance is the key.
Yeah. And also, skinny isn't necessarily healthy. You know, I've met lots of clients that were pancreatic cancer, and they're skinny as can be, and not healthy. So, and also in many cultures around the world, especially indigenous cultures, the more plump you are, the healthier and more vital you are. And we can see this as we age. You know, like we have this suppleness, this moistness, this fullness that happens, and that's a sign of vitality. And then as you age, you start to wither, right? The fluid starts to dwindle. We start to get more frail. So I don't think that skinny is necessarily healthy, but I think you can be heavy and be fit. Yeah.
I think it's also a matter of, I mean, as a chef, I have like constantly, as a kid, I've constantly struggled with weight. It's a constant ongoing battle. And I think it's also things which come with age. Because I remember when I joined the CIA, I mean, this was a whole new world for me. I mean, I had just come from India. I would put more salad dressing in my salad because this was, wow, I had never tasted anything of that sort, right? Of course, there was more Tabasco in my food than the food, but I needed to add flavor. But it is, I mean, and then you start off your career where you are, you're working these, 60, 70, 80 hours, and you are, you're a chef, so you have, you're poor, so you don't have money to go and spend on food. And then money starts coming, and then you overindulge. You're like, oh my God, I'm going to French Laundry, I'm going here, I'm going there. So, and then there is a moment of, you're like, this is my body, I can't abuse it anymore. Then you start that restraint. So I think, Shakespeare had written the 7 stages of man. I think there is the 7 stages of chef, where I think I'm at stage 5 or 6, where I'm hoping there is some wisdom coming. I mean, I'm not holding my breath for it, but I do think that this is my body, I need to take care of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
There is just one thing, I say this all the time. I said we should live a first world life, but eat third world. When I say that is like eat more fruits, eat more grains, eat more stuff like that. I mean, you see, and I'm not lying, you see all the poor people in India, they are really, really fit. They're doing extreme hard work, and even the food that they eat, you will see they'll be eating just so little because they don't even have food to eat. And what they are eating is grains. They're eating like lentils. They're eating things like that because that is the cheapest. Nothing processed. They're cooking fresh food every day. Even such people are taking food packed and going on the farm. Then if it's this little. And it is very important to learn that from cultures, that how they have managed staying fit by eating less and eating correctly. And that's very important.
And those are often the people who are working all day.
They're working
physically,
all day, very
and
physical
they're
work.
sustained on just that lentils or rice or
Correct.
whatever,
Yeah.
the fresh stuff.
Well, their body becomes more efficient. Yeah. Yeah.
Because there was a response about a specific food type, I want to just rifle through a few, if you will, more Western type diseases. And I mean the diseases that we make really well here in America. So the title of this panel was, healing one bite at a time. And I had to just say, how about our one bite at a time? We had sort of 3 stages at lunch yesterday, and we literally were fed one bite at a time at Cheers Station, which I thought was so beautifully tied into what today's panel was about. So, if you had literally only one bite to give someone and they had an illness, what bite of food would you give somebody who had, they came to your restaurant, came to your as a patient? It's so different having like restaurant and then a healer. If someone came to you and said, I've got type 2 diabetes, can you please give me a bite of food that will be helpful? What would you feed them? I have a couple diseases, so don't dwell too much. Just a bite of what?
I would probably give them cinnamon tea. Cinnamon is really helps in controlling diabetes.
Cinnamon tea?
Yeah.
Coriander with a little bit of methi, which is a different herb that reduces diabetes. It completely, fresh coriander, if you have a whole shot of fresh coriander and you measure yourself, your diabetes measure it, you will see it fall down right away in an hour or 2. It's very, very good for diabetes. And that is what I would do.
How about you, Andrew?
Well, first, I would look at diabetes. What is it? Disease of the pancreas, right? So the pancreas is governed by the sweet flavor. So I'd have to ask some questions of this person and find out, okay, why are they craving so many sweets? Are they exhausted? Are they looking for energy because sweets are the quickest form of energy? Are they missing sweetness in their life? So it's a very important question because we have very high rates of diabetes. So if they're missing
And you only get to give them one bite.
one bite. So if they're missing sweetness in their life, it doesn't matter what I give them on the plate. The sweetness could be that they're lonely, right? They're missing love. They're missing support from their family, right? So what are they reaching out to the sweet for? Is it to find, because we associate sweet with love, right? We give chocolates on Valentine's Day. So where is that sweetness missing? Where is that love, peace missing? So I'd have to first find out if they're balanced in their life, and then we could sit and talk about a meal, and cinnamon is fantastic, fenugreek, all of the herbs are great because they stimulate the process of digestion. But again, I have to look at, what is this person not getting that they're craving so much sweets? Like and everybody knows when you're sad, what do you want? Sweets, ice cream, you want stuff like that to pick you up, to make you feel better.
Okay, I've got a few more quick diseases I want to ask you about.
We got lots of diseases.
I know. I'm going to have to limit it because we have 5 minutes. How about high blood pressure issues? You could give them a bite of something. What would you give them? Again, you go first.
Well, high blood pressure, right? Where's their stress? What's happening with their stress levels? Do they hate their job? Are they unable to accept life the way that it is? And then, of course, I would give them parsley.
Parsley.
Yeah, naturally diuretic.
Oh my God. For high blood pressure, mulati. Do you know what mulati is?
Asafoetida is also good.
Yeah.
Asafoetida, I know asafoetida is
Right.
good for it. but I
Mulati is
she speaks more Hindi than I do, so I don't know.
Is it like
licorice.
Is she
it's a
swearing now?
licorice. Oh no, that I'll tell you later. Licorice sticks. These are, mulati is licorice sticks, and you get this and you boil it in water. It's also really good for cold, so that is something that I would give them.
And it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, asafoetida is very good again. That is one, but you have to be careful with asafoetida how it's made because it's ground with different things, especially for people who have celiac. Be very, very careful because most of the time asafoetida is ground with the husk of wheat. So be very careful when you don't want to fall more sick if you had another type of a disease. So just be careful.
Okay, last disease I'll get to here. Being a middle school sex ed teacher, I get this question a lot after the football games the little kids watch on TV. Like, what is Cialis and Viagra? They can't say Viagra and Cialis, but they somehow do. So, and from my neck of the woods and health, this is all tied into the heart and vessels and everything, but what would you do if somebody came to you with ED, erectile dysfunction? What one bite would you give them?
Well, I'd send him to the massage parlor for a happy ending. But what I want to do is get their blood moving, right?
They can't have a happy ending unless you feel
That's right. Because what is a heart-on, right? It's blood,
blood flow, baby.
right? So you want to get the blood moving. So
Well, see,
cayenne,
I'm coming from, I want the endothelial cells, the lining of the arteries to be able to dilate. So what
yes.
can you get that
Cayenne
to
pepper.
dilate?
I mean, you want something that's going to move.
Shazam.
Move, yeah, move blood. You know, even like ginseng, you know, just like powerful roots, strong roots. Like think
Roots
about this
Conference,
as
a
a root.
new meaning. Love it. How about you? ED.
I would probably tell them that they've come to the wrong place. Yeah, pretty much.
I've really not looked into that, but I can definitely do a research paper by next week and give you an answer.
Including field research, please.
Yeah, field research. But
I'll
about
take-
happy endings, I mean, we can always ask JJ more stuff. He will be very good at giving you answers. So if you want that, I think we should hand over the mic to JJ.
Okay. I have one quick.
Kat
what-
is breaking up the party with Edie. Yeah, you want to talk
I've
more
got
about...
one quick question while you raise your hand, please. She'll get out there. But can you please, when you answer questions, I wanted to talk about the importance that Jahangir and I left the farm this morning, and we were talking about the importance of microbiome. And microbiome doesn't just live in our guts. Gets in our guts through the food we eat, and the food we eat gets it from the ground it's grown in. So plants are literally prebiotics that let the probiotics grow in our belly. And Farmer Lee Sr., I'm sorry, I don't know his name. Farm.
Bob.
Did a brilliant job presenting to all of us today about exactly that importance. And I love how you brought it up in yogurt, how the biota can live in there too. But think about those questions as you guys, I'm turning it over to you now for 5 minutes of questions you might have for this panel.
Hello, thank you. Just a quick question. Anything to have or stay away from with MS? I'm sorry if you guys discussed it. I was a little bit late to the panel, so.
Dairy.
Well, you know, MS is multiple symptom, and you know it runs through a lot of different systems in the body. So the first thing you want to do is reduce the inflammation. So what's causing the inflammation? Are they allergic to the foods that they're eating? Too much sugar? You want to calm down the nervous system as much as possible so that they can relax and start to absorb and digest food. Because we can't absorb anything if we're stressed out, and when people have MS, they're under a lot of stress. Their whole nervous system is like this, right? Yeah.
I'd say
Short
dairy.
story.
I have a question, serious question. So chefs suffer a lot from ulcers because of high level stress.
Yeah.
Or what we eat because we intake a lot of high acid content. We cook with a lot of high acid content. What can you recommend to either solve the small ulcer problem for chefs or prevent it?
I mean, I got a couple of suggestions. Okay.
I mean, you're doing pretty well by sleeping with the hostesses. So basically, that is your calming problem. I mean, that's why you've always been calm. But other than
Jay said it was a serious question. Serious question.
A classic example, a classic remedy for ulcer is cabbage juice. It's been thousands of years, cabbage juice, but also bitters in many cultures to stimulate the enzymes so that you could process the food better.
It's also, with ulcers, it is a lot to do with stress, yes, but it's also a lot to do with lifestyle and what you eat. Constant shots of tequila doesn't help with that. But what has really...
Directly speaking to him?
Of course, it was a serious question, right? We were pounding shots yesterday, don't you remember? I'm just kidding. So one thing which really helps is if you take fennel seeds. If you chew on fennel seeds, that really helps. But fennel seeds, rose, and just a little bit of ajwain, which is carom seeds. If you just make a drink of that and just keep on sipping on it throughout the day, it really helps.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good one.
Delicious also.
What?
It's delicious.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Hi, this one's more for Jane and Andrea, but ancient medicine often has a lot of interactions with modern medicine, especially in dosage. So how do you kind of combat that in this instantaneous perception of modern medicine, whereas ancient medicine takes more time? How would you solve that for your patients or consumers?
For me, like my students and my patients, they understand that I tell them to, like I love Emerson, his statement to adopt the pace of nature. Her secret is patience. So we are very much a part of nature, but we've disassociated from that. So what's happening in the physical body didn't happen overnight. Nobody wakes up, oh my God, I got lung cancer. That's not the way that it happens. Nobody just wakes up, boom, there's diabetes. It's been growing inside the body for many years, whatever it is, whatever the condition is, the imbalance. So I tell them they have to be patient. They have to take time, they have to really love themselves and be patient. Like, it's gonna take some time to heal this condition. And unfortunately, we live in a very, the mentality is everything has to be healed in 20 minutes. So you know what? Breast cancer is there, boom, take that breast off. Oh, you have diverticulitis, goodbye to 10 feet of your intestine. And that doesn't heal anything. It actually compounds the issue and makes it worse.
I often just say that time is a therapy as well, and it's hard to combine those two. It's a great question.
Yeah.
Do we have time for another question? I don't know who I'm asking that question of, so let's do that.
I was just wondering what direction you think culinary schools need to go in the future, because like having a French culinary school training, yes, my techniques were good and everything like that, but I wasn't taught about any of this. So after culinary school, I had to educate myself. And now kind of looking forward, I could go to a vegan culinary school and learn about a lot of this, but there isn't a school that I think exists that still promotes eating meat and fish and everything, but just getting better sourced ingredients and things like that. So do you see that moving forward with culinary schools?
To me, schools and education is pretty much what you make out of it, right? It is a foundation, and that's important. You get to know about each and every aspect. For example, for culinary school, you get to know each and every aspect of the culinary field. But you are not going to graduate and be ready to be an executive chef of a restaurant. No, you have to learn. I think what a culinary school does is that it opens your mind to all the possibilities which are out there. You don't graduate a culinary school and you just, I'm going to be a chef. No, I mean, there is a whole world out there. You can get into R&D, you can get into research, you can get into writing, and now you can get into health, right? Education is also very trend related. What we are doing right now is we are having conversations about trends which are becoming important to people. So I think that starting this conversation about food and health is hopefully going to plant the seeds of this needs to be a part of a culinary school. It can start off as a course and then it can evolve into something bigger. So I think culinary schools are very important for you to know which direction you want to go in, And then once you grab onto that direction and that field, then you keep on growing. You keep on learning. You keep on figuring out different ways, different directions to go in. So yeah,
Yeah,
that would be my 2 cents.
You're
I
going to
was
start
talking-
that school.
Yeah, and I was talking to
Absolutely.
Farmer Lee this morning, and he said, you know, where do you see this going? Where do you see the future of this? And exactly what you said, you know, like it has to be, it's not out there now, and it needs to be created because the farmers are growing the food, and if they're growing it sustainably and naturally, then we have a good product. And then the chefs are purchasing those products and they're feeding the masses. So no pressure, but the chefs and the farmers are directly responsible for the health of the human beings. No pressure, guys and girls, right? You're directly responsible for the health of the people with what you put on the plate. So if one day we can have a school that combines everything, the culinary expertise with the ancient wisdom, and bring it together into one place, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I was told we have a.
I just have a question with regards more to, and you alluded to this, Chef, earlier, eating right for your body type. Mine is more specifically geared towards your blood type. So there's kind of some research out there that catering a diet to your blood type has certain benefits. Do you agree with that? What are your thoughts on that? And also, there's a test that's called the ALCAT test. Do you think that's sufficient to, let's say, determine the course that someone takes to follow that type of diet?
So it's really interesting. I actually started reading about the blood type diet, and to me it resonated a lot based on the different doshas. In a way, I think that it is rooted in that, because there are 3 different doshas, which are the body types, right? And that really depends on the environment around you. And as I started doing research about it, I started seeing a lot of similarities, right? I, for example, am an O positive blood type. Okay, there are a lot of things that I shouldn't be eating. And I started doing that. I mean, things like I shouldn't be having dairy. And since May, I have consciously taken dairy out of my diet. Now, I don't do it 100%, but I do it 90%. And I can't even tell you how much healthier I feel, right? These were small steps. To me, you know, when I'm talking to people, I'm like, I can't tell you to do something if I don't do it myself. So I took a couple of steps where I took out things from my diet based both on Ayurveda and blood type. And since May, I have lost around 30 pounds. Okay, yeah, I have been starving myself, that is true. But that being said, a lot of this also has been, I have like, okay, no dairy. I'm not going to do dairy. I am going to eat things according to my blood type. And it's just made me feel so much healthier. Like, I know this is TMI, but we are family. I used to have big, like a lot of digestion problems, right? For the last couple of months, I haven't. So I mean, I am becoming a strong believer with that, because I'm like, yeah, this is Ayurveda, this is blood type. It's so similar. And I have been following it, and it has made me feel so much more healthier.
I just have one thing to add about your blood type part. This is a personal story, and there is a nutritionist that we had visited, and this was during chemotherapy. That person took the blood type, the chemo that was going to be given, how long, and according to that, a diet was formulated for us. And it was given to the T. And every time before the next round of chemo, the nurse will take your blood to check if your blood cells and everything is all right. And every single time, the count was so high, and they would be like, I cannot believe this. Like, how can your count be this good if you are on